I've been to Shul many times, and I've had different rabbis, and when you show up to the same Shul every day and you pray there every day, you really get to know your rabbi. So, like, I've had some rabbis who, like, lived for attention. Like, they just love to get their name in the newspaper.
Right.
They just love that. Then other rabbis I've known, just love to be with us. Just love to be with the stars. They just loved to be with celebrities. Like, that was their highlight. For other rabbis, their highlight was like political action, and whether it's the Democratic Party or for the Republican Party, they were like really, really into politics. Then you meet the occasional, like the impressive rabbi who's like into Torah, who's into being a good person, who's into helping other people, yet isn't so needy for you to love him that he'll compromise on right and wrong. But this is a rabbi who stands for right and wrong, wants to help people, but he's not going to compromise Torah to do it. He's not going to like water down the Torah to become more popular. But like when you daven every day with people, you really get to know them well. And so they're like, some people are just like, oh, they're just like yearning to be more popular. They're yearning to be loved, or they're yearning to, let me do something really innovative so I get in the Jewish Journal. And then there are rabbis who stand for what's right and try to help people within the boundaries of Torah. And they're the most impressive ones, like when you meet a true Torah personality. So Abraham was like a true Torah personality. His influence flowed from his personality, from his behavior, rather than from public pronouncements or ideological statements. Like some rabbis, some religious leaders, they just live to be on stage. Like they're at their best, they're most human in the best sense when they're speaking in front of 500 people. They just feed off the attention, the love, and they're very eloquent, and they can say, fascinating and beautiful things when they're up in front of hundreds of people. But in their daily observance, it's not so impressive. So I find the religious personality, his influence flows from his personality, from his behavior, from the quiet things that he does, rather than from his grand public announcements or ideological statements. I find the quiet worker who embodies decency, goodness, God, commandments, I find that type the most impressive. And that's Abraham. He's not like going on TV and making grand statements. So Abraham fed the hungry, he befriended the lonely, he remained loyal to those who were really no longer worthy of his loyalty. He called out the name of God wherever he was. People saw in him that he was a special person, unique figure, a hero of spirit and action. People saw God in him, and that's what Abraham achieved. And there are still people like that. Like right here in Pico Robertson, there are people who like not seeking the limelight, not seeking desperately for you to love them, to pay attention to them. They're just seeking to do what's right. I find those type of people impressive. By contrast, like in Western society, it's essentially rootless. You don't find generations of people at the same house of worship so often anymore, except in Orthodox Judaism and traditional Christianity. You see people just pursuing pleasure, such as like women who can offer you the 3 orifices simultaneously. People just pursuing instant gratification at almost all costs. I got to admit, there have been times in my life where like I can't sleep and I think, I've got to see a blonde woman with really big breasts getting it from at least 5 guys at once.
Sick.
And I just want to see her covered in their DNA, and I want her to be wearing like lingerie while this is going on. And I want her to look kind of innocent, and I want to see her being really violated. Like, I admit that. I have had those yearnings go through my head. It's like, and I've got to have that or I just can't sleep. I've just got to have that instant gratification or I just can't sleep. And that's my sex addiction calling out, and it's not the Torah's way, but that's the way of much of Western civilization. It's like, oh, I've got to have my beer, or I've got to watch my sports, or I've got to You know, I've got to go to my pole dancing class. I've got to go, you know, I've got to go shopping and buy some new heels. You know, or I'm just not going to be human. So people who are unwilling to sacrifice for the future or for others, they suffer from a lack of heroes and role models. They suffer from a presence of herpes and other STDs. In the Western society, we venerate sports stars, movie actors, princesses, and politicians. These are not the type of people to venerate. It's like people like Abraham and then good, solid, decent people all around us here in Pico Robertson. And like one of the main reasons that I became an Orthodox Jew is that I found a higher proportion of good people in Orthodox Judaism than outside of Orthodox Judaism. Like, I'm cool with a lot of Reform and Conservative Judaism. I find it interesting. I like the music. I like that they play musical instruments on Shabbat. I enjoy the Kiddush. Like, often the women don't have as many sexual hang-ups. Sometimes they can offer me all three orifices simultaneously. And I dig that about Reform and Conservative Judaism, not to mention Reconstructionists, where, you know, they might throw in their twin sister as well. But in all my journeys and wanderings, like Abraham, as I've wandered through synagogues in Los Angeles, I have found the most impressive people in places like Aish Torah, Young Israel Century City, B'nai David Judea, Beth Jacob, Chabad. Like, there are a lot of great people, righteous people, Torah observant people right here in Pico Robertson, like really impressive families that I want to get close to and admire and try to replicate in my own life. So that's the primary reason I'm an Orthodox Jew, is because it turns out consistently so many quality people. And I remember I was going, this family invited me home for a Shabbat lunch. I just met them on the street after Shul on Shabbos morning. And they invited me home for Shabbos lunch. And as they were walking by, this like secular guy in his 20s like called out, you know, where do you go to meet good people these days? Like, you know, he saw that we were Orthodox Jews walking home from Shul, and he just like had this lament. Where do you go to meet good people these days? It's a great question. I think, generally speaking, the best way to meet good people is to go to a traditional house of worship. And if you don't find them there, go to another one. And go to another one, and if you have to, move so that you're near a traditional house of worship that is filled with good people, so that can influence you, so you don't go constantly pursuing those, you know, amazingly flexible, logiastic gymnasts who can give you those three orifices simultaneously. Because after about 20 or 30 years, those three simultaneous orifices will start to fall, and they won't be as exciting for you.
Are you done yet? Yeah. Because you've talked for like an hour. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Wait. Well, first of all, you weren't listening. You were watching the game.
Yeah, because you know what's happening.
Like, you talk 85% of the time, and I'm totally cool with that. So occasionally, that I like to say something on this show that, like, maybe one show in 5 do I talk for 5 minutes at once. Like
5? You talk for 20 minutes.
I didn't talk for 20 minutes. I started about 8:12. I talked for 10 minutes.
Is there anyone?
I'd say you could probably go back for 10 shows before you'd find me speaking for 10 minutes straight.
You know what's going on with this game? This is why I have Kansas City, and once it goes over 30,
I'm not talking about Torah and goodness, you're talking about...
This is important. I have Kansas City. Kansas City has to win, and the final score has to be 32 or lower. Right now, Kansas City is winning, but the total score is 32 exactly. If anyone scores, it doesn't matter who scores. If anyone scores, I lost, it's over. We're out of the pool.
And is that going to comfort you when you go to bed alone tonight? That you're on the football pool? Is that going to help you out when you're sick? Is that going to help when you need a friend? Is that going to be there for you when you're asking the great questions about life?
It's 20 to 12. Do the math. It's 32 exactly. There's 12 minutes left. If there's just no scoring for 12 minutes, we'll win.
You know, this box is your woman with 3 simultaneous orifices open and available to you. Like, what a woman for me, who's a 3-input woman. Like, you know, how tempting I find that, and how, like, oh, I just want to get with her and I want to enter every one of those entrances. Like, that temptation for me, for you, it's that box and the goyish sports and winning your football pools. I mean, but is that going to keep you warm on cold winter nights?
Oh no! No.
This is your team, and you're rooting against them because you